Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Common Sense Guys channel. And we may have lost some internet connection, so it may have been everything there. Shirati, if I was you, I would probably get the wine out. I'd probably get the wine out. Just so everybody knows beforehand, somebody that I used to do streams with on this channel quite a lot goes by the names of Kay. His granddad has recently passed away, and he is trying to be able to get enough funds to be able to, be able to go up to Wales from London to be able to go and visit him, and go do the whole funeral thing and whatnot, and to be able to look out for all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm doing this at the beginning so people know that there is a reason why I keep on putting this PayPal in for people for one-time donations. If you can link to this PayPal for me, especially with the mods as well, if they want to copy and paste it for me, please just do that for us every now and again. Because the gentleman in question, as I said, has just lost his granddad. He's trying to find a way to be able to get up to Wales to be able to go and see him. He is he's not in work at the minute. He does YouTube and whatnot, but doesn't get enough money for it, obviously, from being able to do this. So if everybody can, and if anybody's got anything that they can do, please donate to him, because it is actually for a good cause. And no, it's not a form of charity. It's actually for him to be able to get to see and pay his final respects to his granddad. It's not me trying to pull on your heartstrings or anything else like that. That's generally what is happening, and I'd be most appreciative if you'd be able to do that for me. I've already put some in myself as well, so if you wouldn't mind, please help a guy out. That's what we do, right? That's what we do. Right. On to the stream, shall we? On to the stream. 12 minutes into it, and the whole point of the stream is to talk about the rioters. Let's be honest. That's what they are. Now, I've said before on some of my videos that I understand where they're coming from. I understand where the anger's coming from, and I really do. I really do understand where the anger's coming from. And for me, it's a case of, even though I understand where your anger's coming from, I also understand where your levels of hypocrisy are coming from. We've got the anger, we've got the let's get out there, let's do something about it. I understand that. I especially understand that with the American side of things, because it's their police, right? It's their police, it's their systems, it's what they want to do and what they need to do to be able to get change. So I understand the systemic change that they need and what they want, so to speak. So I understand that. I don't understand why they want people to actually say that they want to abolish the whole of the police and things like that. Well, then again, I kind of do, because anarchy is, what they're really after. But besides the point on that one. So let me get back on track. I understand where they're coming from. But when it comes from the aspect of, say, from the UK's instances before this happened in the US, yeah, there was some form of outrage, and there was a small minority of a minority that was screaming and shouting about racism and things like that. Now, before I go any further again, I will put this caveat in there and say, look, there are people that are in certain systems that are racist. That's a completely and utterly given. I'll give that to you. Here you go. It's right there. I understand that in some circumstances, there are some police officers that may or may not be racist, or may not treat you very well, or may not have a prejudice due to your income disparity or your socioeconomic standings. I understand that. I do understand that. But to say that the whole system of the police force, especially, and to hyper-focus on this issue, on the UK police, is a redundant waste of time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certain cases that definitely come up where we have a look and we need to reevaluate things. We can all understand that. We can all get that. The problem that I have is that I've already talked about the protesters. On this day today, 76 years ago, D-Day happened. D-Day happened 76 years ago to this day, on this day. Hey SSM, hi Straight Sif Mao, how you doing, buddy? And we're now talking about Black Lives Matter. We haven't talked about the fact of D-Day, how historic it was, how the fact of them actually fighting back Nazis, how they actually fought to make sure that, they didn't have people taking over their freedoms and so on and so forth. But no, you're not allowed to go out and look after D-Day. You're not allowed to go out and sort out things for D-Day or anything else like that, or to celebrate that. You're not allowed to do that. But yet, you're allowed to go and protest. You're allowed to go and do things at thousands upon thousands of people in certain areas. You're allowed to go and do that? I don't understand. I really don't understand it. So I wanted to show you something of the aerial footage that was taken at very beginning, very early today, of people that have gone into the actual protest today. Because I'll be honest with you, I'll be very honest with you, there's quite a lot of people that are actually involved in this. Quite a lot of people. And for the idea of actually being, should we say, a part of what's going on at the minute, as in, we know that we've got the pandemic going on. We know that we're not supposed to be outside. We know that we're supposed to be social distancing and everything else like that. We know that that's what we're supposed to do. There's people that are not allowed to go to goddamn funerals. I've had to cancel my goddamn fucking wedding twice because we weren't sure what time and what we were going to be able to do that. I've had to cancel that twice. That's just me. There's probably millions of people that have had to do exactly the same goddamn thing. But these people are allowed to go out. They're allowed to protest. Nothing happens to them. There's thousands upon thousands of people that have been written up, been fined, in some aspects have actually been taken to prison for things like that. By that, I mean holding cells and whatnot. And yet, this is allowed. This right here is allowed. This is 2 minutes. I just want to show you the sheer amount of hypocrisy that comes from our Conservative government and government in general. This is not just a focusing on the Conservatives. This is a focusing on government as itself. How when something like this comes up, they haven't got the balls to actually do something about it, to say, look, you've had your protest, you've had your sign of solidarity, move on. No. They let these types of things happen after protests have been happening, after it turns out to be riots. I've done videos of how they chase media away, how they've chased after police officers, how they've been rioting with the police and fighting with them. They have no respect for the police whatsoever. And the longer that this carries on, the more and more that they're going to have less goddamn respect for the police and even less respect for the goddamn government. Because you know why, ladies and gentlemen? You know why? Because every time they're being told that they're not allowed to go and do something, and when they go and do it, they're allowed to. They get away with it. So let's watch this video very quickly. It's only 2 minutes long. I just want to show you the actual hypocrisy of the whole UK government, and in fact, almost every government that has put into the idea of instigating any sort of form of lockdown measures and still continuing with this form of lockdown measures, being draconian to the rest of us. But then people like this that are literally people throwing crap around, defacing monuments. We'll get to that very later because they decided they were going to, on D-Day, deface the memorial to Winston Churchill. So yeah, let's watch this, shall we? Let's watch this. Doesn't look like many, does it? I mean, they're definitely social distancing, aren't they? That's definitely social distancing. I mean, at an estimate, what do you reckon's there? About 5,000? Maybe 10? Maybe pushing towards 20? It's amazing, isn't it? That's allowed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not allowed to have a wedding. Other people are not allowed to have funerals and been told that they're not allowed to have more than 10 people at a gathering. But they're allowed around about 5 to 10, maybe 20, maybe even 50,000 at a push. People jam-packed into one area. Now, this stream isn't to try and provoke any sort of anger towards the actual protesters themselves. In actual fact, it's not, believe it or not. It's more of a point and a jab at governments to say, why are you allowing this? Why are you still trying to actually implement a form of a lockdown for everybody else? Why are these people allowed to have their grievances heard, allowed to have their form of gathering, their form of protest heard, but I'm not allowed to have a wedding with 100 people involved? But they're allowed to have like 20, 30, maybe even 50,000, or maybe even more than that, jam-packed into one goddamn area. How is this conducive to the idea of keeping the R rate down? How is this the idea of being able to say to people, this is what you need to do? Remember how everybody was broadcasting about how Dominic Cummings was such a horrible person for looking after his family? Not one person's called this shit out. Not one person. All the leftist media, all BBC, all Sky News, all of that, not a mention of Dominic Cummings anymore. Put that to the side. Don't talk about that anymore. Let's talk about this and how important it is to talk about systemic racism in our UK police when it's something that's happened in the fucking US. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have had a drink, so I am a little bit annoyed overall. But, you know, that's just the way that shit is at the minute. That's just the way that shit is. I'm completely and utterly annoyed. I'm pissed off, and I don't like the fact that because they have a legitimate claim to be able to go outside and have their protest and whatnot, that apparently they're allowed to go in their droves for not 1 day, not 2 day, not 3 day, not 4. This is coming up to almost 7 days. 7 days of protests is coming up to. And yet, this must be at least 50,000 people each time that are coming to this, at least if coming in and out. And I'm trying to be conservative with that and highball it, but I think there's more. That's what's annoying to me, that the government themselves are letting this carry on, that are letting this push and pull and trying to actually do what they're doing now, which is actually what they're really good at, and that is separating us from them. And by us and them, I don't mean white people and black people. I mean people that are allowed to do stuff and people that are told that they're not allowed to do stuff. That's what I mean here. I'm not bothered about colours of people's skins and everything else like that. I'm honestly trying to tell you why I'm angry, why I've had a drink and everything else like that, that trying to be centrist on this notion, trying to be down the line, down the middle and whatnot, doesn't seem to be helping anybody. It seems that it's allowing these types of thuggish behavior. No, I don't mean the whole protests. I don't mean the whole protest by any stretch of the imagination, by any aspect whatsoever. I mean this wholeheartedly. There are thugs that are involved in the protests, and they are using this as an excuse to go and fight the police. They are stirring up racial divides so they can get money donated to them so that they can fight for a cause that in most instances is already at least half sorted. And if not sorted in the way that they want it to be, it's at least moving in that direction. Now, don't get me wrong. As I said at the beginning, it's a case of you have protesting this. You have the idea that George Floyd was the catalyst for this. Now, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Everybody was annoyed, and rightly so, and everybody was angry at what the police officer, Derek Chauvin, did to George Floyd. Regardless of George Floyd's background, regardless of if he was taking drugs and was in porn and whatnot, who cares? That doesn't really matter. That's not here or there at this minute in time. It's the fact that what Chauvin did was completely and utterly wrong. And the idiocy of the fact of outrage culture, the idea of outrage culture, is what's perpetuated this. I'm going to destroy shit. I want to completely and utterly destroy the idea of the police. I want to destroy the idea of government. I want to destroy the idea of hierarchy. I want to destroy everything, burn it all to the ground. You know, that famous Joker quote, some people just want to watch the world burn. Sorry, that wasn't Joker. That was obviously the butler. I can't remember his name off the top of the head, sorry. But that was the butler, obviously, that said that. And that's amazing to me, that you had the conservatives, you had centrists, you have leftists, you had liberals, all down on yourself, all telling you that, yeah, we need to do something. There is something that we need to do. There is some change that needs to happen. That's out of order. We need something to do. No, we're going to kick the shit out of our local areas. We're going to tell our local areas that for some reason we're really pissed off at the police, we're really pissed off at the government, but we're going to destroy the area in which we live in. Like, you know, I'm going to destroy the Sainsbury's that's around the corner. For what reason other than I want stuff and I'm angry? all that does and means is in the next day that there's nothing for anybody else to have. All you're doing is destroying the whole area that has been built up just because you want to destroy crap, because you feel that you're making a change by destroying your local area. You're not making a change. By being as destructive as you're being at the minute, and yeah, this is a stream of consciousness, unfortunately, and there may be a lot of shit talking and whatnot, but the way that you're going at the minute, you're provoking the idea of more militarization, especially within the US. If you've got more and more people saying send in the National Guard, if you've got statistics and you've got polls that are saying that they agree with Donald Trump on the idea of sending in the National Guard, if you've got more people that are willing to have the National Guard and the police actually enforce more unconstitutional laws to be able to protect them from the city, do you think that that's going to go after the protests? Honest question to people. Do you think that that's going to happen? Do you know why they're forcing those through? Because people are scared. And when people are scared, they want their safety. And when they want safety, they don't think of other people's liberties. They don't even think of their liberties. And that's where we are at the minute. We're at that famous metronome system at the minute, where you've got one side, you've got safety. The other side, you've got liberty. And the more and more that you guys that are protesting and causing all of this criminal damage and looting and damaging and burning and all that type of stuff, you're moving it more and more towards the safety option, which means you're losing more and more liberties, because that's how a metronome works. The more that you push towards some sort of thing and more people pushing towards safety, the more and more you lose your liberties. And I mean, the main reason why I wanted to do this stream, and unfortunately for people that are asking for a link and everything else like that, I'm going to do this stream completely and utterly on my own today, simply because I can't be asked to be able to sort anything out, and I just want to rant at this minute in time. I just want you people to listen, to hear, and if that's not good, then that's cool. I just want to rant at the minute. So I know people are asking for the idea of coming in and wanting to have their own rant. That's cool and everything, but at the minute, I just want to scream. I just want to shout. I just want to drink my cider. I just want to drink my cider, and I just want to relax, but I can't because I'm pissed off. But that's where I am at the minute. I'm so disappointed with the left. I'm so disappointed at the minute, because you had everything that the left wanted. You had the idea of trying to reform the police. You had that idea. Everybody was talking about it. If they weren't talking about it overtly, they thought about it conservatively inside of themselves. That they were on your side. And then you started burning shit down. For 7 days, like 6 to 7 days, you've been burning shit down. I know there's a lot of anger in the world. I do get that. I've got some myself, obviously. But for 5 to 7 days, you've been burning shit down. Do you think anything's changed? Are more and more people on both sides, from the police side and from your own side, actually going to be doing anything? Because all you're doing is causing more death, more destruction, and more mayhem. You're making the police use rubber bullets in America. You're killing more and more people by trying to nick TVs. You're killing old, retired, or people that have just been transferred to. You're killing them for no apparent reason. You're destroying black businesses. I mean, what do you do with that type of stuff? Where do you go with that type of ideology? The only way that you can deal with somebody that is so willing to destroy their own area is by imprisoning them. Because if you're so ideologically disposed to be able to say to yourself, look, the only way that I can actually do anything, the only way that I can change anything is by destroying shit, you've got it arse fuck backward, my friend. You've got it arse fuck backward. You don't go and destroy stuff to try and rebuild it. You rebuild it. You're trying to make it better. You don't just carpet bomb it. For all the people that have said that war doesn't cause or war doesn't help anything, all the people on the left that say that war doesn't help anything, war doesn't take you anywhere, war doesn't do this, war doesn't do that, you seem to be doing something out of the Republicans' book there, don't you? You're using your violence to be able to push an agenda, which is kind of the reasons why you've been called a terrorist group. But neither here or there at the minute. So this stream is supposed to be, believe it or not, about the UK police, but it's so intrinsically linked. It's just literally the mirror image of what's going on. When America sneezes, the UK gets the cold. And that's the problem. Because we mirror and because our cultures are so different, they're so similar, they're almost completely identical in most aspects. There are obviously overt differences that you can see on the cosmological, on the cosmic level, as in the surface level. There are obviously differences, but generally most of it's similar. That when something happens in America, for some reason the left in the UK think that it's happened in the UK. And I've been speaking to a couple of people on Twitter today, and they've been trying to show me instances that have been happening 10 years ago, saying this is the reason why we're so annoyed. Where you're going back to Stephen Lawrence from 1993, almost 30-something years ago, well, almost 20-something years ago, close to 30 years. And yet, those are the cases that they're using to say, yeah, this is the reason why we're against the police. Again, I do understand that there are some police and some interactions that are going to be a point of, yeah, they're racist, some individuals, but show me where the systemic racism is, and then we can fight together. Show me where there is actual physical laws and how they actually operate as a systemic system, then we can fight that system together. You destroying shit and attacking the police doesn't help anybody, doesn't do anything for anybody. All it does is destroy the relationship that was already there between the police and the people. So whatever progress that was between the police and the people is now going to be completely one-sided. The people are going to think that they've got, let's say, authority over the police because they've been beating them, especially in the UK protests. We'll get into that, for the last couple of days now. And the more and more that I keep watching the ones, at least in the UK, the more and more I see that this is not a political movement. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely protesters there, and they are definitely protesting for the right reasons. But at the same time, there are thugs in there that all they're doing is using this as an example or an opportunity to be able to sort things out and think that they're just going to attack people, get their own back on the police, of course. And I mean, Dr. Bollocks, I love that joke, but it's a bit racist. But let me just go and try and show you something else, because this kind of pissed me off. Remembering that it's D-Day today, right? It's D-Day today. So remember that when we play this, if I can play it without it going anywhere. Don't worry. Let me start that again, because apparently I'm so goddamn annoyed that I can't remember that I need to put the audio in, because, that would take some sort of mind. So this is in the midst of the protests, and this is near the Winston Churchill Memorial. And remember, today is D-Day, the 76th anniversary of it.
Oh, officers, look, you've got fans and bands, though.
We haven't stood here the whole time, sir.
I'm sorry, no.
Don't tell us, right? We haven't seen them do it, all right?
Okay.
You know we haven't.
It's disgusting.
It's been done. It's been put over.
So why are you lot guarding it now?
We have got officers here.
Shall I get all the football lads to do it? Shall I?
Not a good idea.
No,
not a good
that's
idea.
not what we want you to do.
Well, I will. Wait, boys, start guarding that. Get boys around that and guard that. Fucking, that's disgusting.
So he's now just talking to the police on this one, and that is the Winston Churchill Memorial, and especially obviously for D-Day and everything as well. So remember when everybody was saying and talking about the idea that Winston Churchill was a horrible person, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be sitting here and trying to defend him wholeheartedly or anything else like that. But remember, there's always good and there's always bad. If you look at the bad, then that person's always going to be bad. And if you look at the good, that person's always going to be good. There is nuances to everybody. You have to look at the overall picture rather than taking little snippets and cherry picking your aspects. But if this was about systemic change, why are you just tagging your little crew up? Why are you tagging your crew up if this is supposed to be about systemic change and changing the police? You know, trying to make a difference. You're in solidarity with George Floyd, right? And all the other black lives that that apparently don't matter. So why would you be writing on this type of stuff? Why would you be doing stuff like this? But obviously the police have been well looking after that, haven't they?
So as you can see, Churchill has already been hit. We've got police here, and it's been done. Pass a message on. Winston Churchill has been vandalised.
So, like I said, I don't want to be overly dramatic because all it is a statue and whatnot. I'm not trying to blow this out of proportion to try and get people to go and fight back or whatever. It's just a case of they knew it was a memorial. They already had police around it. Police are apparently supposed to be watching these types of people, and yet it still gets tagged up. How many other memorials down that street have been tagged up that he didn't decide that he was going to have a look at? How many other historical landmarks that we saw in Trafalgar Square that I put a picture up in the last video been completely and utterly vandalized, completely and utterly tagged up? If this was about systemic change and about trying to sort things out for Black lives, why do you need to graffiti it up? Why? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It really doesn't. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. That's where I am at the minute. If this is supposed to be a political message, right? This is supposed to be about changing everything, changing the idea, about supposedly sorting things out, right? That's what this is supposed to be. But how does this change anything? If you do generally want, and if there is somebody that's here that's actually a part of this or looking at it or coming back or whatever, then I really want this to resonate with you. I really want this to be a question that I want you to answer. From what you're doing at the minute, what do you honestly hope to achieve? Do you hope to abolish the police? When the more that you attack and the more that you damage, the more that the public will be against you and support the police. So if you want that to happen, that's not going to happen. If you want changes to happen to the police, if you want systemic changes and rules to change, then put forward the rules and the instances in which you want to be changed. Screaming and shouting and destroying public property and private property and historical landmarks isn't going to get people on your side. The way that things work in a democracy is that the people decide what's going to happen. If you put forward your ideas to your local constituents, to everything else, and you peacefully protest, you get people to sign petitions and so on and so forth, then you can get change. Now, I know it's not as flashy as deciding that you're going to run after a copper and then kick him when his back's turned. I understand that. And the thing is, a lot of people don't understand that there are police institutions that are there to just investigate the police. If you have problems with the police, bypass the police and find out what the actual institution is that's investigating the police. Phone them, ring them up, sort them out. I just wanted to pause for a couple of seconds while we've got people watching and everything else of that. There is a PayPal that is in the chat. And no, ladies and gentlemen, it's not my PayPal. Just give me a second for a couple of minutes. I'm not shilling for myself for a change. But the person that I am putting in there that really needs the help is Kay, that used to come onto these streams and has done a couple of bits of work for us and so on and so forth. His granddad, unfortunately, passed away yesterday. And he is out of work at the minute, and he is trying to find a way of being able to get to Wales from near London, because obviously he hasn't got money and everything else like that. So that's the one. Okay. So if anybody would like to be able to help him in any way, shape, or form, that's his direct PayPal link. Doesn't go to me. Nothing's coming to me. I don't get a penny out of it. So if you can and you're feeling generous, please go and help him any way which that you can, because he needs to be able to get to see his granddad and say his final farewells to his granddad. Now, on a day like today, on the 76th anniversary of D-Day, if you can find it in your hearts to be able to do something like that for him, I'm sure he'd be most appreciative. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please do click on that and do send him something, please. As I said before at the beginning of the stream, I've also sent him something myself, but it'd be helpful if everybody else does something similar as well. If you can, obviously, I'm not trying to push it onto anybody. So I'm now going to move on to the thing that really instigated why I wanted to come onto this stream. Now, I really want people to watch and listen to this when we can get there. Not that one. Fuck's sake. Everything's always good, isn't it? You start thinking that you've got things set up and you haven't got nothing set up. You got nothing set up. Nothing. Right. So let's try this again, shall we? Because the reason why I actually wanted to get into this and why I actually was so pissed off this morning and so pissed off the afternoon, which really got me into this, is for this reason here. I'm sure people have seen it. It's only 25 seconds long, and it was only posted around about an hour and a half ago. So let me just put this through so we can all see what's going on and understand what's the problem. So as you can see, there's already people that are protesting outside Downing Street. Those gates that you can see there are actually where the MPs would go in and out of. That's actually the entrance into Downing Street itself that's blocked off, obviously. So that's what those gates are for anybody that doesn't know London or where they are at the minute. So let's watch this and watch the police coming into your right-hand side on the screen. So let me just take this back, and there's a police officer with a horse that starts galloping. That's around this area here, if you can see my mouse. If not, it's just near where this tree is over there, which doesn't really help, but let's carry on. You can see it coming through. It's going to go and hit the traffic light. Now, before anybody goes over the top, obviously, I'm not saying that the protesters knocked the police officer off. It's not what I'm saying. That's not where I'm going. But the horse itself was obviously scared about what was going on, about all the noise, about them throwing stuff, about the rain, about everything. Remember, it's just a goddamn animal. I know that it's trained. I know it's supposed to be trained to be able to withstand these types of things. I do understand that, but it is still just an animal. So the animal itself got spooked, ran. The police officer has now just been hit by the traffic lights and has spun round and has landed his arse on the floor. Now, I don't need to tell anybody that, one, you can become paralyzed from a fall like that. Just ask Superman. And if you fall the wrong way, you could literally die from falling off of it. I know that's a bit over dramatic, but you can do. So just watch what happens next. So, by the way, he's literally laying flat out there on the floor. Just where that blue person is with the fluorescent green rucksack. See the other fluorescent that's in front there? That's him laying flat out on the floor, by the way. He hasn't moved. So now the police have obviously gone round to protect him because the peaceful protesters that now have seen a police officer literally down and probably knocked the fuck out, is Sparko on the floor. And what do? Do they go and help? Do they call an ambulance? Did they show any concern whatsoever? You know, to try and show and reach out a olive branch or a helping hand to try and, you know, show that they can change and everybody can change and we can all change together. You know, the good old Rocky IV speech and whatever. But do they do anything like that? No. No, they don't. They start throwing bottles, they start throwing shit at him while he's laying down on the floor. Probably knocked out, at least knocked out. Maybe something even worse. I don't know. Everything's not there at the minute. But literally just throwing stuff, crowding around him, not trying to help by any stretch of the imagination, and just throwing stuff at the police. And not just police in general, but the police officer that's down on the floor, down and out, can't defend himself. The tactics of thugs, and I don't care what color you are. This isn't about color that I'm calling you a thug. This is simply about your goddamn fucking actions. Somebody that is supposed to be there to look after you, that is supposed to be there for your safety, as well as their own safety and the public safety, has just been literally knocked out. And your instant reaction isn't to go, oh, let's go and help him. It's to laugh, to point. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why they're laughing and they're pointing. I understand that. But not one person goes in, general person goes in to try and help. In fact, most people that did go in are taking pictures and doing their videos and whatnot. They are throwing stuff, circular. They're encasing him. They're encroaching onto him, cutting off air supply and so on and so forth. Now, I don't mean that in a horrible way. I don't mean that in a hyperbolic way. I honestly mean that they're taking air away by encroaching onto his space. Now, don't get me wrong. The police are obviously there and they're doing a much better job at doing that, but they have to because they're protecting him because he's knocked the fuck out, at least, while people are throwing stuff at him. Unfortunately, I wish that this video would have gone a little bit further to find out if people actually did start to help or not. Or if, as they saw that somebody was already down on the floor, did it escalate? Did people see and smell blood and want to go and make a name for themselves, should we say? Make a name for themselves. Because that's all that I think that this all is. This isn't anything to do with politics anymore. This isn't anything to do with change anymore. Sure, people are still clinging to the idea and guise of what's going on and trying to cling to the idea of, oh yeah, we're doing it for really good reasons. Honest, we're really doing this for good reasons. Honest, guys, honest. But you look at their actions. I mean, I was taught when I was younger, don't listen to what a person says. A person can say a lot of things. A person can say almost anything. But it's what a person does. That's the problem. That's where you've got to look at. That's where you've got to analyze. That's where you show that person's character and understand it. And if they're going out of their way to deface historical monuments, if they're going out of their way to destroy public property in general, if they're going out of their way to attack police officers, was this really about political change? Was this really about the idea of change in itself? I don't think it is. As I said before in the video, I can't support protesters when they're doing stuff like this and they're not calling stuff out like this. And do you know what the biggest problem is that I have? I don't actually blame the protesters. I don't actually blame the thugs anymore. Because society is actually brooding this. It's actually fulfilling the self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. The more that you keep on pushing the idea that you're oppressed, the more and more that you keep on pushing the idea that you're downtrodden, that you're not worth anything, and people think that you're shit, eventually you're going to snap. And I think that this is where it actually stems from. I don't actually think that this has come from the idea of the anger that has, and rightly has come and become of, George Floyd and other such people as well. But it's actually come from the idea of people being told that they're no good, that they're told that they're being oppressed, that they're owed something, that they're owed reparations, that they're owed a living, that they're owed a wage, that type of stuff. That's where this, in my opinion, is really stemming from, and why people were so annoyed, so angry. So let's get rid of the police, abolish the police, because if they're really under the understanding, tongue twister, they're really under the understanding of trying to push the idea of systemic change, why are they pushing a narrative that reinforces the idea to the public that the police are needed to be able to make sure that civil disobedience can and should be upheld? Because all they're doing at the moment is proving why there needs to be a police force and why there needs to be enforcement of the law. I mean, where else do you go with that? So, again, I'm just going to say to people again, for anybody else that's still here, so to speak, is I know that I've done this already, but there is a PayPal in the link down below. There is also a PayPal that is in the chat as well. Please, if you can, not for me, this is for somebody else. This is for a gentleman called Kay, who has unfortunately just lost his grandfather yesterday. Now, he's trying to scramble enough money to be able to sort out how he's going to get from London to Wales. Now, it's quite a big journey. It's probably going to cost him some money in the car or the train or however he's going to get there. So I think he just wants stuff like some petrol money and stuff like that. Maybe somewhere to help to stay, like a cheap B&B and stuff like that. But this PayPal doesn't link to me whatsoever. It's nothing to do with me. This goes straight to Kay. And if you can, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you can, help out any way that you can. It's really important. And in days like today, we do need as much help as we can do. So, yeah. I'm going to be ending the stream very, very shortly, guys. But what I would like to leave you for the last 8 minutes of the stream is what this day should have been remembered for. And that's for the people that fought on the beaches. So I would like to leave this with you guys as the last 8 minutes as my outro. Please sit and watch it. Take a couple of minutes to remember the brave men and women that fought on the beaches or by the beaches or deciding how they were going to encrypt everything and so on and so forth. Please, if you can, just listen, watch. Remember the real heroes that actually fought for change because they had to. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I do bid you farewell. I do bid you adieu. And I do hope to see you again real soon. But bye for now. Take care.
Today, of course, we are marking on breakfast the special anniversary, the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Naga is in Vers-sur-Mer, where a ceremony has been taking place this morning. Naga, good morning to you. We've been hearing some pretty incredible stories, some really moving stories of what those veterans went through 75 years ago today.
Ben, I can't tell you how emotional it is being here. It's just so poignant. And I've had the great pleasure of being able to talk to some people who were there 75 years ago. On the 6th of June, 1944, one of those was Harry Billinge. He was just 18 years old at the time, and he was among the first of the British troops to land next to me right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, dear.
How are you?
Tired, weary, and very sad.
Remembering those?
Remembering everything. I can't forget. I was in hospital in Dartford for 2 years, and the consultant there was trying to help me to forget. But I got such a vivid memory, they couldn't help me at all. So they said, I can't do anything for you, Harry, because you've got too vivid a memory.
Harry, you were just 18 years old when you were one of the first wave of troops. You were a sapper.
That's right.
With the Royal Engineers. What a sapper being?
Well, I do. It's only attributed, that rank is only attributed to the Royal Engineers. They do all the dodgy jobs.
You're 93 years old. I hope you don't mind me saying.
No.
And you have I think it's fair to say, dedicated your life to remembering your
I
friends
can't
and
do
those you
anything
lost.
else. I did 64 years in St Austell with a poppy appeal. I'm a bit too old for that, so they stopped. Then I took out the bit, I've done a lot for the landing craft, and I'm president, or was the president of the Royal British Legion and the club, and I also was the chairman of the Southwestern group of the Normandy Veterans. I'm an honorary member of the landing craft, of which I take a great active part years ago. And of course, they're still going now, but there's no Royal Normandy Veterans now.
Tell me, Harry, about when you landed on the beaches.
When I landed, it was hell. You cannot put words to D-Day. Whatever I told you would be a lot of rubbish, because I never seen anything like it in my life. You had the ships firing over your head, and you had the Germans firing you from inland. And 88mm guns they used, which would blow you off the face of the earth. All the mines and that were taken away by flail tanks. That was called a Hobart's Funny. They cleared certain paths to get the men off the beach as quick as possible. And there was a beach master. One bloke I knew was SAS bloke, and they was getting everybody off the beach. And a lot of poor fellas never even got out to sea.
Harry, what were you told just before you landed?
Keep your head down. What was I told?
What were you told to expect?
No, they didn't tell you nothing. Just go on. You knew what it was going to be after you. I was in the Thames Estuary 3 weeks before I came over on a boat called the Fort Carillion, and I got in with the crew. And being a silly old bloke like I am, I didn't eat any army rations. I got in with the galley with the Merchant Navy's crew. So I was a bit of a wide lad, see. That's why I'm still here. I knew to keep my head down.
I've got a quote, Harry,
Yes.
of you, saying that when you landed on the beaches, it was either me or them, and I made up my mind it wasn't going to
That's
be me.
right. My dad told me that. Keep your head down.
And your dad was also
My dad
in
was
the
a
army.
soldier in 1905. He was when he joined the Lancashire Regiment, the Royal North Lancashire Regiment. And if you go to Lancashire, you'll find a family name is there. There's a place just south of Manchester called Billinge, my name. Apparently, we came over with William the Conqueror in Normandy.
And your two brothers also, Bill and Alan.
My brother Alan and I were very closely knit family. My sister married an Air Force fella called George Buller, and he was an air gunner, W01. He got shot down in the sea when he was on Coastal Command, and he was made a member of the Goldfish Club. He got shot down in Bomber Command, and his face was all damaged. He went down to East Grinstead, and he was a member of the Guinea Pig Club. So everybody in my family must have been crazy, all mad. But I'm still here. My brother died last October, 30th
Sorry to hear
October,
that.
and he was a headmaster school in Dorchester. He was a clever fella.
Harry, how important is it that we
This-
see a memorial like this
well-
and it is remembered?
More than when they sent me the brochure, I said to my wife, I've got to go collect some money for this. And that's what I did. And all the people in Snossel were very generous to me. I made £10,000 for the memorial. And when I came over to Alamarch, where they all know me, I had a few thousand or a few hundred euros.
How important is it,
More
Harry?
important than anything
it's
I've ever
remembered.
done in my life. Very, very, very important, because I knew a lot of good men, all lovely young men who are not here, who paid the sacrifice, who went the whole way, walked the 7 mile and then another mile after that. I can't explain. All I know is Normandy veterans love one another beyond the love of women. If you was in a hole in the ground with a boat, you got to know him. Marvellous men. My generation saved the world. And
You
I'll
did.
never forget any of them.
And we're grateful to you. Harry, thank
A
you so
mate
much.
of mine died in my arms, and he was in a field in Caen. He had a 3-week-old baby, it's called Needs, and they took me to the 60th anniversary to find out where he buried. And they buried him in a little cemetery called La Deliverance. And I got up there and put a cross on his grave. I'm very sorry I get a bit choked.
You are absolutely entitled to. We are grateful to you. Thank you.
Don't thank me, and don't say I'm a hero. I'm no hero. I was lucky. I'm here. All the heroes are dead, and I'll never forget them as long as I live.
Anna Foster is in Arromanches for us this morning. There have been ceremonies there. Anna.